Cars have between 4 and 8 cylinders?
I think they could have up to like 24.
Really?
No, I just pulled that number out of my ass. I don't know nothing about no car.
I know there's like 6 cylinders. That might be the most common.
Maybe.
How many cylinders are you firing on? I've already asked you this question before, but...
Like right now or my car?
You in general.
Me and my... in general?
Yeah.
Right now? 1.
1 cylinder?
Yeah, today it's going to be a bad episode. I'm sorry.
I'm probably firing on 2.
Yeah? How many do you got in total?
24. No, Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week. So we saw The Godfather.
And
I've seen it before. You've never seen it.
And
I was not 100% in this time, but that's no reflection of the movie, in my opinion. It's gripped me before, especially the first time I saw it. I was gripped. What about you?
the reason I was going was because we also watched...
Oh, yeah. We also watched Scream 3. Do you want to start with Scream 3 then?
We'll start with the Benner movie. Got jokes, we got yucks, we got ha-has. No, we can start with The Godfather.
Okay. Well, which one do you think we're going to talk about for longer? Because I have a feeling it's going to be Scream 3.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be Scream 3, so I'll start with The Godfather.
So yeah, it's your first time watching it. You've been pestering me for a couple of days to watch it.
Yeah.
Why was it so high in your list of like, all right, let's finally do it?
Well, I've been pestering you for 3 days because you've been pestering me for 5 years to watch it. And yeah, it's just on my list of shit I need to see. And, we have it in the house. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I should watch The Godfather.
It's exactly why owning a gun is a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't riff a joke on that. I was gonna.
Okay, anyways, continue.
But just like a loaded gun in the house, we used it. No, we watched it. Sorry, I just got mush brain right now.
Like last night.
We watched it last night, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a movie, yeah, everyone in my life's been telling me, you haven't seen The Godfather? It's that classic thing.
Also, because you're...
I'm a big old fat Italian.
I know you said your dad loves it?
My dad, not Italian, loves it.
But he wishes he was Italian.
Yeah, he's...
Kind of, right?
No.
That's what I get the gist from the stories you tell me.
No, I think my dad likes the fact that he's in an Italian family now.
Yeah.
But he's not just, wearing pinky rings and shit now. My dad looks very Italian. When I tell people my dad's not the Italian one, they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. Like when we go to funerals and stuff like that and he has to wear a suit or a wedding, my dad looks like a Don. It's insane.
So The Godfather.
He looks like a Godfather, yeah. Is my dad a Godfather? I don't think my dad is a Godfather.
Probably not. Like, it's an interesting thing. I have not surveyed my friends, but you've informed me that you have godparents.
Yeah.
My partner has godparents.
Most people I know
Her
have
family
godparents.
takes godparentship very seriously. It's a thing where, like, she even flew in for, like, the baptism. She was the godmother to her niece and stuff. And then I told you I wasn't, and you were like, what? And I texted my mom. I was like, do I have godparents? She said, do you want some? And then I asked her if she had any, and she was like, if I do, they're probably dead.
It is, yeah, it's something that's like semi-serious. It's one of those things where people like worry about it when the kid is born.
Yeah. Well, she told me that. She was like, yeah, I mean, if anything happened to me, your Uncle Ron was going to take you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think the like, actual, like, interpretation of, like, what it's supposed to be is if you die,
they take you.
If you die...
Your parents die.
No, if your parents die...
That's what I'm saying.
They teach you your religion.
Oh,
Yeah. But also some people, it's kind of a debate. Like, people think it's one or the other.
well, I gotta ask Alicia's family which way they're taking that.
Because
There's two very big differences there.
yeah, because my godfather is my uncle, and my godmother is my mom's friend. So it's not like they're both gonna just move in and take care of me if my parents died, you know?
Yeah. I figured at that point it'd be a coin toss, like which one was in a better place to take it or something.
I guess maybe.
Yeah, I had no idea it had that kind of a religious tie. Interesting.
So yeah, that's why it's not really something that like comes up later in life, but also it's like kind of like a surrogate, like backup, like uncle or parent thing, you know, just like another parental figure
so
for a
much
kid
less
to have.
responsibility if all you have to do is like guide them religiously.
Oh yeah. If I'm ever any poor kid's godfather and I have to do that,
You're gonna like print out the definition, just so we're clear. You mean this one, right?
Yeah, I'll just be like, bro, whatever you want, dog. Like, what do you? I'll call him bro and dog a lot, just to relate to the
So
kid.
the Godfather.
It was fine. No. Almost watched it once as a kid with my dad. I was like, it was when my point of time my dad was just showing me a bunch of movies. He's like, we're gonna watch The Godfather, and I was like, okay. And then it started, and he was like, actually, we're not gonna watch The Godfather. And I was like, why? And he's like, because you're 13 and you probably won't appreciate it. You should probably watch it later in life. And I was like, okay. And so I watched it 12 years later.
Do you think it was the right call to wait?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I probably could have watched it when I was like 18, 19 or something like that. So we watched it last night. I loved a lot of it. Overall, I liked it. It's gotta be one of those things where, you know, for my all 25 years I've been here, people are like, best movie ever made. So watching it, I was like, it's pretty good, yeah. I don't want to be one of those cool guys that's like, Godfather's overrated, I don't like it. I think it's really good. I really like a lot of it. I just think overall, it might be because I was telling you while we were watching it, looking at all these people, I'm like, oh fuck, I forget how Italian I am. I look at all these people and I'm like, these people look like everybody I'm related to. So when it comes to just a bunch of Italian dudes just talking in a room, I tend to just kind of tune some of it out and take it not as seriously. So that could be it.
It's very funny. One of the things I really like about this film, very small note, but your little anecdote about family made me think of it. I love the wedding scene. It seems so cute. I want my wedding to be like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I know that many people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at that wedding.
There are a lot of fucking people at that wedding. Yeah.
It's also that really cool little scenes where like, God, I can't remember their names, but like Bazzini or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or Brazzini or Bazzini, whatever. He's just sitting there smoking, and that guy takes a picture of him, and his goons immediately smash his camera. That's good. That's good. I like that.
Do you just like that there's a lot of people at the wedding?
Yeah, it seems very like I was like, man, I wish I had more than like 6 people in my family.
I was gonna say, I'll bring you to an Italian wedding sometime.
Is it that big?
It's not that big, but it feels that big. If it makes that any sense. Everything they're doing in that scene, I'm like, I've been to 1,000 of those.
So yeah, how long until you were kind of gripped, I guess? Was it from the get?
Oh yeah, as soon as that dude's like, oh, these guys, they beat up my daughter, and I need justice. From right there, I was like, oh, I'm in. I like this. I did have, I was telling you last night, we took like a pee break or something like that because this movie's 3 hours long.
An intermission.
My biggest problem with it was just how much of it I've heard and seen from pop culture that it takes me out of it a little bit. Like, I really like that scene until he's like, on the day of my daughter's wedding, you come to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's this. Or even, take the gun, leave the gun, take the cannolis.
Such a funny line, always makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's good. The one that I did like immediately recognize but didn't ruin anything for me, when he's at that movie director's house and he's showing him his horse, I was like, well, it's just a weird scene of a horse here, I guess. And then when it like cuts later to like just his bed, I'm like, I know what's happening. I love that shit. That was great. Again, the oranges got spoiled for me for some reason. I don't know. I know that oranges are important to the Godfather, and so when he's like, I'm gonna go get some fruit, I'm like, oh, this guy's getting shot. Thought he was gonna die. I was surprised he was in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how much he gets shot and lives, and then how like when they're hitting the dons of the other 5 families, they get shot like twice and they're done.
Yeah.
But that might be the only like kind of like a little baby jumping, believability that the movie has, in my opinion. Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. It's fine.
That's why they shoot his son 1,000 times.
Yeah, to really make sure they're like fucking Corleones.
God damn, they're sponges.
Bulletproof, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it for a second. The way I sold it to you, not to say that I'm the, owner and proprietor of like marketing The Godfather to people, so I'm sure you've already heard. But I was, just it's basically like Breaking Bad, right? Al Pacino's the war hero, the one who never wanted to get involved in the family business, and I think it's a very gripping, portrayal of like him, just falling in line with the family business. As we've discussed, it kind of happens like a switch.
A little bit.
Which rubs me the wrong way in some ways, but then in other ways, I mean to say that like I wish perhaps it were a little more gradual. But then also I really do think it's a strength of the movie, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, he grew up around this. He knows it. He's got the mind for it.
Yeah.
The only thing that was ever holding him back was just him not like wanting to do it, right? And in my opinion, my favorite scene in the whole movie does a great job of depicting that, which is when he shows up at his father's hospital room and realizes, there's nobody around. There should be detectives here. There should be reporters here. Nobody's watching my father, right? And the nurse comes by and she's like, you gotta get out of here. And he's like, you know who my father is. Men are coming to kill him. We have to move him and whatnot. And then the baker, not the baker from the beginning who's like, hey, my daughter's in love with this guy, you gotta keep him. But the guy that he's talking about that his daughter's in love with shows up and he's like, who are you? And he's like, hey, I'm the baker, whatever.
Yeah.
And, he's like, hey, you're going to have to look tough and pretend like you have a gun in your hand or whatever. And this is a great scene where, like, you're watching Al Pacino basically, like, look for context.
Yeah.
So, like, basically, kind of be... it's almost the thing that, like Batman gets called the world's greatest detective for, like, the Sherlock Holmes thing, right? Like, he's just being smart. He's being super smart. You know what I mean? He's being observant, right? And I love that. And to talk about my gripe with how fast it happens, I don't like that. Like the next scene is him immediately being like, "Yeah, I'll shoot that motherfucker right in the fucking face, and then go live in Italy for a year. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
I'll do 10 years. I don't give a fuck. Like he just so quickly turns into Joey Diaz, kind of.
Yeah,
which is fine, and I like him getting there. I just feel like it happens so quickly. But again, it's one of those things where it's like a switch, right? He's just decided like, hey, they're not going to stop trying to kill my father. It's time. The switch has flipped. I am part of the family. And so that's fine.
Yeah, I like it in the sense that he's, what my biggest kind of complaint, personal, like, I don't want to say problem, but like hang up with it when I saw it was like, I've seen Breaking Bad before, so I've seen kind of the story before, but in my opinion, probably just because I had seen it first, and it's something I like a lot better. But also, it's because it feels less like there's a flip switch because I gotta watch it happen for seasons and seasons and episodes. But it is less so like in Breaking Bad, where it's just a slow corrosion of this guy over time. Yeah, where Al Pacino's character is just like, I don't want anything to do with this, and then everyone around him is fucking up so hard that he's like, and it's perfectly personified in the hospital scene.
Oh, okay.
When he gets there and he's like, fuck, I don't want it to be, but I'm in this situation and I have to take control of it. Yeah. And that's just kind of what happens for the rest of the movie. Like even that next scene where, like what we were saying, everyone's like talking, like arguing, like, oh, we can't do this, and we gotta do this, but we gotta do this, and this and that, and like and nothing's getting done, and he's just like, I'll go kill them. That's what'll happen. Yeah.
And even then, I like in that scene where he's like, he's talking to Robert Duvall, And he goes, where does it say? Where does it say you can't kill a cop? Where does it say you can't kill a crooked cop? A crooked cop who got caught up in narcotics and now is getting what he deserves. And we have newspaper people on the payroll. They might like that story.
Oh yeah,
they might like that story. And yeah, and I think it has like kind of like those big like Breaking Bad moments that like pin it down, that really like solidify that he's kind of a bad dude now or whatever. Like goes off to Italy or whatever, and he's like, fuck it, I'm in love with that farm girl, I'm gonna get married here. He like calls the dad out and he's like, I want to meet your daughter, and he just makes it happen.
Yeah, it's probably one of the only times I've laughed out loud watching this movie is when they cut back to America and it shows his girlfriend and she's talking to someone, and I was like, I'm just watching it, I'm like, oh fuck, he just got married, that's right.
Yeah. And then she dies, and then there's a scene where he goes and talks to his old girlfriend, and
it's been 2 years.
She's like, how long you been back? And he's like, I've been back a year. Which means, yes, it's been 2 years. And then he goes, marry me. And like I've said to you before, it's one of those things that, alludes to like the traditions that constantly keep coming up in the film. Like Marlon Brando says, you talk to your family. And he's like, yeah, I talk to my family. He's like, good, because a man who doesn't talk to his family is never a true man. And all that stuff is boo. But also characterizes the characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's very Italian.
And so like, with the being married thing, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much like a must that he's got to be married, right?
Yeah.
For him to progress forward, to take control of the family business, all that kind of stuff, right? One of the other ones that comes up in the line with the tradition stuff is like just little moments where, it's what's his name? He's Salvatore Valestra in the Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
When they're like, oh, hey, we're going to ride separate. And he's like, ride separate? That messes up my whole thing. And he's like, actually, I'm not even going to go with you. And then he's like...
Yeah, well, he just knows.
Yeah, he's like, tell Michael that it was just business. It wasn't personal. And he's like, there's no way you can get me off the hook for this, He just knows, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Another thing I love... in terms of just those little things, right, where like it's obvious, but also they don't draw a crazy amount of attention to it, is Paulie calling off sick because he got bought off by the other people.
Yeah, you pointed that out to me.
Right, because he just comes into the room and he's like, yeah, been real sick. I don't know. I just woke up not feeling good. And he's like, all right, go ahead, go on out here. And he's like, okay, I'll talk to you later. And closes the door. He's like, damn motherfucker, I want him taken care of right away. I want you to do it tomorrow morning. And that's great. But it's just a collection of like super memorable moments, in my opinion, as well as like also having that emotional background. But it's like proto Goodfellas, right? Goodfellas is like the Quentin Tarantino version of the Godfather. But I like there's even that the dynamic between Michael and his father, where like yes, he's doing his father proud, but also he's not. He's kind of letting his dad down at the same time. Like there's both of those things going on, right? Like when they tell him on his deathbed, basically, like, yeah, Michael's the one that killed those guys. He immediately just starts crying and telling everybody to leave the room or whatever, because he never wanted that for Michael, right? And they have that conversation later where he's like, I always wanted you to be Senator Corleone.
Governor Corleone.
Governor Corleone, And he says, we just didn't have enough time, Pop, which kind of opens the door to like, hey, maybe it's his little baby that's going to be the one that goes legit or whatever.
Godfather 3.
And, it also has a bada bing, a little bit of like that No Country for Old Men, like things just get worse and worse thing where like it's getting into narcotics. It's the new generation who doesn't do things like the old generation. Mm-hmm. That's what's causing this all to go down, and everything's going down the shitter. And it's the same thing that happens in Goodfellas, right? There's never any attention drawn to like the time shift, but basically by the end of Goodfellas, what's fucked them up? That they got away from, running the 2-bit rackets, and they got into the drug money.
Yep.
Now everybody's hooked on drugs, and everybody's fucking around with money, and people owe money here, they owe money here, they're drawing too much attention to themselves with the money here and the drugs here. The same thing happens in The Godfather. And that's all well and good. Like I said, I'm not much of a traditionalist. Traditions are kind of a gray area for me. But for the context of these characters and who they are, it is interesting to watch, to observe.
Yeah,
and I appreciate it.
Real big fan of a lot of the shots and a lot of the blocking in this movie.
Okay, what are some of your favorites?
The one that comes the two that come to mind are the obvious one everyone always talks about, where he is in the restaurant before he kills those two guys, the police chief and the other man, and the camera just slowly pushes it on him while the other guy is talking, and his dialogue fades away, and you just hear the train in the background, and you see Pacino's eyes just darting everywhere, and then he shoots them. And the one that I noticed that I really liked is when he's saying goodbye to his girlfriend before he goes to kill those two guys. And she's like, when will I see you again? He's like, I don't know, this and that. They shoot it like he gets they're sitting at the dinner table talking, and they're doing two different over the shoulders. Like when you see her, she's on the left. When you see him, he's on the right. And then he gets up for a second, he sits back down, and he sits back down, and they're having that conversation, and they're still doing the over the shoulder shots, but they're both on the left side of the screen. Yeah, because they're not on the same page anymore, and nothing's really this conversation's going poorly. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like a lot. There's a couple of scenes that I like where Michael will pull a chair up and sit.
Yeah,
but he'll sit next to somebody rather than the classic cinematic across. There's the scene where he's talking to Carlo or Carlos or whatever his name is about the whole I know you sold my brother out, just tell me, don't lie to me, don't insult my intelligence, and he pulls that chair up and then he sets it right next to him. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Now he's open to the camera and Carlo's away anyways.
His dad does that earlier in the movie. And the guy comes,
he does that with
can't remember his name, but the other gang guy, the drug man, the one who actually puts the hit on him, right? Yeah. I like all that stuff too. I like how he picks up Robert Duvall and he's like, I know you're not part of the muscle, so I'm not going to be a muscle. I'm not going to muscle you, Yeah. It's like, I'm just picking you up because you got to talk some fucking sense into him. This is the future. This is where the business is going. You got to get him on the right page, And that's all great. I love, it's one of those things where, everything I feel like I'm about to say about it, I'm like, should we even be talking about The Godfather? I mean, they've done goddamn History Channel documentaries on this fucking movie. But yeah, I just love it, even at its basest, on the form or whatever. Just as a good, interesting crime movie, you know what I mean? Like I said, the fact that they can just really, lightly allude to oh yeah, Paulie was bought off. I can tell by that fake cough, right? Or even just all of that drug man's thing about yeah, I'm gonna knock off whatever the hell the big man is. Remember when they stab him in the hand and they strangle him, and I'm gonna put a hit on the Don and whatnot, and I'm trying to get him to weasel into drugs, and then it turns out that it's that Barzini guy the whole time that's really trying to just take down the Corleone family and whatnot. Yeah, or the laying low in Italy, all that kind of stuff. I also think it's got a very slow and kind of hypnotic pace to it. It really draws you in. Yeah, it's 3 hours.
Yeah, which means you kind of got to be in the mood for it. But also, if it hits just right. That's what I'm gonna say about The Godfather. That's what I got for it. I wish I had a little more, but I'm gonna say watch it.
I will say you say your favorite scene, hospital scene, yeah?
Yeah.
I would say mine's either that or a close second is when all the heads of the family are talking together, and he's talking about being a superstitious man or whatever, and it's out on the table that his son killed those two guys or whatever, and he's like, all right, we're at peace here or whatever, blah blah, this and that. He's like, but if something should happen to my son, if he should get killed by a police officer or struck by a car or hang himself in his jail cell, or if he is struck by a bolt of lightning, I will blame the people in this room. I'm like, ooh, that's so good. I don't know why that's the one line in the movie that stuck out to me. I'm like, that's so fucking good.
Yeah, and I also think there's plenty of scenes like that where both the Don, and Michael get to kind of just be the guy. I don't think ever on camera in this film Al Pacino blinks.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool effect. Whenever he's on screen, I can't not look him dead in the eye.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Mo Green scene where Mo Green goes you don't just come into this town and I'm Mo Green, you fucking prick. He's like, Barzini tried to come and buy me out and I'd get the, keep my hotel. What the fuck are you thinking or whatever? And then Michael just lights a cigarette or whatever, and he kind of closes his coat and gets to get up, and he's like, think about a price. and walks away.
Yeah, it's like I have a plane for New York tomorrow. Think of it.
Yeah.
Hard truth, hard fact. I'll say it here. I don't like Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Never really have. That's probably the biggest thing that kind of took me out of this movie was I've never really cared for Al Pacino. I think he's a great actor.
Yeah.
I just don't like looking at him or listening to him.
Dog Day Afternoon.
I haven't seen a lot of Al Pacino movies.
Yeah, I want to see Serpico. I haven't seen that. So the last thing I'm going to say about the Godfather, it's also got, I think the most like proto Goodfellas scene in it is when Sonny shows up. She's got the black eye and the black mouth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he just immediately bites his hand. And she's like, no, don't make my kids orphans, stuff like that. And she's like, hey, relax. What am I going to do? And it almost hard cuts, but it's the 70s, so they don't have the hard cut yet. But it basically hard cuts to him pulling up to him on the stoop and kicking the shit out of him.
I really liked that, too. I really like it tying back to the end and tying back to the beginning where he's talking about families, important and stuff like that. So she tells him, yeah, just don't hurt him or whatever. And he's like, what, I'm gonna leave you without a dad, your kids without a dad? And then he just beats the shit out of him. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's all about family. Can't leave those kids without a dad. You can't do that to him. So this guy's just kind of off the hook forever. And so at the end, when he's like, oh my God, Michael, yeah, Al Pacino's character is like, I'm not going to do anything to you. What do you think? I'm going to widow my sister? No, I'm not going to do anything to you. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this guy's just off the hook forever. And then they immediately kill him. I'm like, oh, you got me.
Total Breaking Bad moment. Yeah, well, I guess the one thing I forgot to talk about is how it ends. This is one of those movies, we've had the conversation before about, how like, most of the time I kind of like don't really mind how a movie ends. I can kind of just fizzle out because it's kind of about the journey,
Yeah.
I don't think this movie fizzles out. I really I remember the first time I saw that, my fucking jaw was on the floor. Just, his sister leaves the room, having accused him of killing her husband. And then his wife with tears in her eyes is just like, is it true? And he does that thing where he smacks the table right as he starts screaming, and it's almost a jump scare where he's like, don't ask me about my business. And then he's like pacing for a second, he like fixes his tie and shit like that, and he's just like, one time I'll let you ask me about my affairs, whatever. And she just asks like, is it true? And there's like just the right amount of pause before he says no, and then it just ends with like her going into the other room for something. All these mob guys come out of nowhere, and he's just standing there. And it's one of those things where you get the sense that she's looking back at her husband and just kind of going, yeah, he probably lied to me. Yeah. You're going to tell me that guy didn't lie to me? And then the door just slowly closes on it. It's almost like it reminds me of the scene where like they just like pan out on Walter like cackling in the crawl space or something. Like it's one of those things where it's just so poignant. It's just so fucking...
It's great.
Chef's kiss.
Well, I think I really like... I'm trying to just bring up things that I don't hear people talk about The Godfather all the time, but...
I don't know. I don't really honestly listen. I just know that there is talk all the time.
Yeah. Like you said, it's... There's documentaries about this movie, so
what are we going to say?
Definitely brought up things that we have said. I'm just telling you. So everyone turn this down, stop listening, and come back in a couple minutes. I really like when they're at the funeral at the end. And the other mob boss, the guy from the beginning that breaks the picture or whatever.
Bazzini. He's like behind it the whole time.
Yeah, he like puts a flower on them, whatever. And he smiles at Michael. And I don't think you ever see them in a shot together. But like I said, I think the blocking in this movie is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm kind of talking out of my ass here. You just see Michael just looking at him the entire time. And just like keep cutting back to those shots of him. And like you said, just his face doesn't blink. Those dead eyes. He's just... the entire time when that piece of shit is over there like smiling and talking to other people, and he just stare. Oh, it's so good. So good.
Yeah, I like also that the Salvatore Valestra comes on over and he's like, hey, he wants to arrange a meeting, and then he fucks off, and then Robert Redford and Michael have that conversation about like Robert Duvall
Yeah.
is like, I would have never thought he'd do it, I thought maybe like so and so would do it, and then Michael's like, no, so and so's muscle. It takes intelligence to do this kind of a thing. It even says it's the right move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just like that shit. I like those little things like get slipped in there where like it is just business. Like multiple times characters will say shit like that, but they're like, no, it's the right move. Mm-hmm. But sorry, it crosses me, so bye.
So bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. And there's also that moment that mirrors. There's a nice moment. There's millions of them, obviously, but it just came to mind. The Don has that moment where Sonny speaks out at that meeting, and then afterwards he's like, don't ever let anybody outside of the family know what you're thinking ever again. And then later on you get that scene with Michael where he's talking to Fredo, and he's like, don't ever side with anyone outside of the family again, or whatever.
Yeah.
Very cool. Or even with Robert Duvall, like when they're in that meeting with Mo Green or whatever, and Fredo comes over and he's like, "Come on, you got to tell him, And he's like, "The Don is semi-retired, and the time with currently the Michael's the guy, or whatever." So, anyways, I mean, I'm just gonna go A+. Like I said, I think it's a great movie. It achieves everything it sets out to do. Obviously, it raised the bar. There's documentaries about it. It's one of those things where like there's not a gangster movie that's come out since that isn't indebted to what the Godfather did. Yeah. I know gangster films have been around since the fucking birth of cinema. They were one of the most popular genres through the 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s. And I know that there's plenty that are still, standing the test of time and stuff like that, but I definitely think that's the one that most people are most influenced by. And again, like I said, I'm not saying anything nobody else is saying. This is the fucking Godfather. But I think it's hugely important. I had a great time watching it. It's 3 hours. I would say
feels like 2.5.
Maybe 3 out of 5 times I'm asked to watch it, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's being generous or whatever. I couldn't say that, like, it's not a movie that I could definitely say, like, oh, if anyone ever wants to throw it on, I'll watch it. It's 3 hours, so I'm sorry.
No, I get it.
Same thing with Magnolia. I love Magnolia, but I'm not jumping at the bit every time someone says, "Let's watch Magnolia." I'm like, well, maybe let's watch something a little closer to the 130.
I think it is too premature for me to give this movie a grade. I saw it less than 24 hours ago.
Okay.
I get the feeling it's gonna probably be like Halloween for me. The first time I saw it, I was like, all right, yeah. And as time goes on and Halloween sits more with me, I'm sure The Godfather will sit with me more.
Yeah, I'm curious what your second viewing experience would be like. That's what I'm curious
I do plan on watching it again.
No rush necessarily, but
stoked for 2. Love, like I said, not a big fan of Al Pacino. Love me some Bobby De Niro. Oh, love him.
I feel like I have no context for the next 2, so those will be really interesting experiences.
Yeah.
And there's also a third one.
Yeah, Godfather Part 3.
And you know what else had a third movie? Scream.
I was trying to do a bit. Couldn't think of one.
Yep.
Scream 3. That's 3 screens for you.
Okay. Starring
Liev Schreiber, and
he's the Drew Barrymore of this movie.
He's the Drew Barrymore of this movie. Yeah.
That's the one convention I think they flipped in this one.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they flipped anything else. I could be wrong.
Do they have a Drew Barrymore in the second one? Oh yeah, Jada Pinkett Smith. Yeah. Or just Jada Pinkett at the time.
But this time it's a man.
But this time it's a bro. Also starring.
And it's the bro.
Liev Schreiber's the bro?
Yes.
I'm confused. I'm not picking up what you're
just
putting.
An affectionate, calling him, like the guy.
Oh, okay.
Or the dude.
Yeah, I thought you were saying like he's the. I'm like, no, the other guy's the bro.
No, I just like him.
Yeah, no, he's the bro.
I like him.
He's the dude. Also starring Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox Arquette and David Arquette. And WCW champion David Arquette with special guest appearance by Jamie Kennedy. I don't know if you caught that, but in the credits it says special guest appearance by Jamie Kennedy.
I just want to take it from the top for a minute. Starting off, I hate that the killer can now mimic the voices.
Hold on, start out from the top. I hate this movie.
Yeah, I did not like this movie.
Yeah, this movie sucked butts.
Did not like that part.
It was fun to watch. It was a good fun, make fun of this movie type thing.
Just because that technology doesn't exist, and I know that that's not a thing that you have to worry about in movies, but when it's the third movie in a series that's been grounded in reality the whole time, yeah, it is. It's something that's going to annoy me. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, if that showed up in Back to the Future, it'd be no big deal. If that showed up in Star Wars, it'd be no big deal. But
I mean, I don't think voice changers like the ones they use in the other 2 movies exist, where it turns your voice into that one
totally
specific
different
voice.
Yeah.
And also, there are a lot of times.
But again, that's established from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So to me, that's not that big of a leap. But what did bother the fucking shit out of me is at the end, when there's like the big face-off between her and him before he rips off the mask and he's talking to her. It's the voice. It's the ghost face voice.
Yeah.
But he's not holding anything. He's just speaking like that.
Yeah. I will say I also have I take umbrage with the fact that he gets up from being stabbed in the heart and then runs at them, and she has to shoot him in the head to kill him. I know that they talked earlier, and Jamie Kennedy was like, he's supernatural this time.
He had a bulletproof vest on.
Yeah, but getting stabbed in the heart's getting stabbed in the heart. That's like insta-death.
True, I don't think you can stab through a bulletproof vest.
Also, yes.
I don't think it's instant death. I think you got a couple of minutes.
I don't think you do with the heart. I think if the heart gets fucked, you're fucking pretty much done.
I mean, you're done, but I
Yeah.
think you got a little bit more time to get up and stab someone else.
I don't know.
I mean, neither do I, but I'd assume your blood's got to pump out the last of its blood. Or not pump out, but slowly die.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, neither. So this movie starts with a car chase.
Yeah. The other thing, again, like I said, I wanted to kind of start from the top and just talk about the things I hate, not necessarily in chronological order, but it is the top, and it never really comes up again. But Cotton's got the #1 like talk show in the country.
Yeah.
Again, that's just weird to me.
The #1 like crime talk show, I think.
I don't think it's crime. They're talking. Well, I guess so. They're talking about road rage.
Okay. I mean, that I buy. We were talking about it. I think.
Rubs me the wrong way.
What's his name? Can't think of his name. Can't think of his daughter's name. But it was a very high-profile murder of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And that girl's father was the host of America's Most Wanted for a very, very long time. And he was famous for that.
Yeah, but they show a clip of his show. It's very clearly not that kind of a thing. It's just like Oprah or something, like The View.
Yeah, I know,
weird.
but it's somebody who was involved in a true crime becoming a celebrity.
Yeah.
I buy that. And that's kind of his goal at the end of 2. He's talking about it all through 2. So it happened for him. I'm happy for him until he dies. I can't... Oh, yeah. And then the plot of this movie is them making Stab 3, which is about the events of Scream 1, which you'd think that would be what Stab 1 was about, right?
Wait, what's the third one about now?
They're filming Stab 3.
Yeah, and it's basically the same movie they already made, because when they're doing Stab 1 and the second one, it is the first one. It's them recreating scenes from the first one.
So what are they doing for Stab 3?
It looks like they're back in Woodsboro, but we never really see any clips, so I can't really discern which one it is.
Are they just winging it?
They might be just winging it.
Okay, so they're making a news story where they go back to Woodsboro and like...
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there's also that thing where like we've discussed privately the fact that like there are attempts by this new writer to try to be kind of meta.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another one of my gripes is just like was making the movie they're making Stab 3 just because you're making the third one, because there wasn't a second one yet.
I feel like this movie would have worked a lot better if it was Scream 2.
Yeah.
I think if the plot of Scream 2 is that they're making this movie, and you could get meta that way.
Yeah.
And it was written by Kevin Williamson instead of John Thoroughbred or whatever
his name's like Kruger or something.
Okay.
Timothy Kruger, maybe? I don't know.
I think that could have maybe worked better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the premise of like them making the movie,
because the movie has
guess
the Stab movie has nothing to do with Scream 2. They show it at the beginning and then that's it.
Yeah. I also, one of the complaints I had was that he is kind of supernatural, but again, they acknowledged it with the Jamie Kennedy thing, so I guess that's fine. But then he also acknowledges the whole, like, oh, something fundamental is going to change. And, like, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
The killer's going to be her fucking brother. Especially with all the shit going on with her mom and the clues that are being left and the fact that now everybody's suddenly like, oh my God, she was in Hollywood for a year.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, disgusting.
I was
hate it.
not fine, but I was okay with all of that until he's like, yeah, and then I found Billy Loomis and I convinced him to do this. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, so you're making Scream 1 bad now?
To me, it's just a whole movie of, like, instead of acknowledging, commenting on, subverting, tropes and cliches and things that instead the movie's just kind of like name dropping other movies and then also like tripping over the tropes and ending up like right where every other horror movie is.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a big bummer all around. And something else I brought up while we were watching the movie is we were probably like a half hour in, and I was like, who do you like in this movie?
Yeah, nobody. Everybody in the movie is just the worst.
Yeah, and there's so many points also where like characters will find something and then they'll go like like they just found out a clue, and then me and you would look at each other and basically go, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when they're like, these were all taken on the same like lot in Paramount or something, and they're like,
we gotta go there right now. Why?
Yeah. Oh
Why?
yeah. Sydney
Why?
says that. She's like, yeah, she says, can you take me there right now? And I was like, oh, why?
What are you gonna? This was 30 years ago.
Do you think the killer like hit another clue there or something? Is this?
Also, it's a movie set. They probably destroyed or moved it.
Yeah, and do they ever actually end up going specifically to that, and it looks the same anyway, or something like that?
No, I don't know.
Because then there's a point where, like, I know they're on the lot and Sydney goes piss, but for some reason, even though she's not supposed to be out of anyone's sight, she goes piss in the back of a not in use lot where like Woodsboro is set up.
I don't know. Yeah, that was really
like, how did she get there? And then when she leaves the bathroom, she's surprised she's in Woodsboro.
Yeah, no.
How the fuck did you get to the bathroom?
Yeah,
then?
exactly. I think one of us made the joke when it happened. She's in the bathroom, and you pointed out that it's the same gross soap dispensers from the first movie, and it looks exactly like the bathroom, the high school bathroom, the first movie. And she walks out, and she's on the set of the other things, and I'm like, do you think she just took a dump in a prop toilet?
Welcome to Jackass 3. Yeah, I also really this is the one thing that I like about this movie.
Ooh.
I love the idea of her being on the set and then getting attacked. Yeah, that's great.
Do that for like I said, this movie would have worked better as Scream 2, I think.
Yeah, because I think Scream 2's backbone being like, they're in college now, is fine from like a realistic standpoint of like, okay, that's what they would do next. But I definitely think Kevin Williamson, with some elements from the second one and some of those elements from the third one, would have made a great sequel, and they probably never should have made a third one. They probably just should have made a really good second one. But again, this is hindsight speaking and whatnot.
And 5 comes out soon, so
yeah. And we have to track down 4. But I really do like that. It's kind of surreal, and it's obviously like traumatizing, right? Yeah. It's almost like, you know, in a video game, like how sometimes you might actually play through a level that's like your character re-experiencing a moment. It really creates this interesting like
I like when she's in the house and like she's getting chased and she does a thing where she's like, oh
with
right,
her door,
I can open this closet door and it's like
she's
like
been
this,
there.
like but
then it ends up being on the first floor, so we can just come into the window, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like it's uncanny.
Yeah,
is what it is. It's familiar, but something's different.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's great.
Yeah,
and that's exactly kind of what I think a sequel should do, because there's a degree to which you have to deliver what people want.
Mm-hmm.
But then it should be a little different.
Yeah. Also, thinking about, being in 2002, when did this movie come out? 2000. We'll call it 2002.
Sure.
And you're watching Scream 3, and she walks on the set, and it's like blah blah blah, and it like gets that shot of the house. I'd probably be like, "Is that the house from the first one?" Oh, I guess it's the house from the first one.
Yeah. Which is really funny that you bring that up, because I love the first 3 Frankenstein movies. They're kind of a trilogy, even though there are a couple more sequels, but people don't usually consider those kind of canonical, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are like huge kind of like continuity jumps. Like, for example, the way that Frankenstein's lab looks from the exterior even changes dramatically from film to film. But it's exactly what you were talking about, where it's like moviegoers saw that movie and then it left the theater, and then the next time you made your movie, it didn't matter that much, because
exactly.
You say, hey, it's Frankenstein's laboratory, and everybody goes, cool. So more stuff that I hate about this film. I hate, but also I love the scene where they're I hate Patrick Warburton, or whatever the fuck his name is in this movie. Warburton, yeah. Love him as a guy, love him and shit, but I hate this role for him.
Yeah,
he's awful. He's just a douchebag, and that's supposed to be kind of funny, I guess. But instead, the whole time, I'm just like, why are you being an asshole to one of the characters I really like, actually? And but then they end up in that house and like they keep like frantically being like, everybody outside. Oh, the fax is going on. All right, everybody inside. Oh, back outside. Back inside. Hate it, but also it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I don't know if it's supposed to. Weren't you reading that like they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna focus more on the comedy for this movie?
Yeah, the studio wanted them to lean into the comedy because of Columbine.
Yeah, okay. I think
that was the big reason why they moved into Hollywood instead of Woodsboro, because again, it was that thing where it's like, oh, a small town getting butchered. Ugh, Columbine just happened in a small town.
Yeah.
Let's forget about it, you know.
I'd say the only quote unquote comedy moment that worked for me is them running inside and outside, and outside.
It's very funny.
I will say, props to this movie, I guess a little bit, that the kind of main plot ends up being a girl goes to Hollywood and gets sexually assaulted in order to forward her career, and then she ends up having a kid about it. And then every other actress making it offhand. It is played for laughs at this point, which sucks. But like pretty much every actress is like, ugh, can't believe I slept with that guy for this. Or, ugh, can't believe I fucked that guy to get that part, or whatever. And then the movie ends and it says produced by Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah, interesting that it was produced by there was no point where he was like, hey guys, ixnay, but I think that speaks to just how like much of an open secret it was.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it almost reminds me, although it's it's so different. It is so different. But it's kind of like the way that like people like always just kind of like, hey, don't drop the soap. Like they even make that joke in SpongeBob.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like wild that everybody just says it and nobody ever goes like, hey, wait a minute. I'm sorry, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know? But well, I mean, maybe I should try to examine for other things that I do like. Is there anything else you can think of liking? You like that one scene where she goes into the room and there's all those ghost faces.
Yeah, there's all the ghost-faced costumes up in there, which I liked in theory. It didn't end up being anything worthwhile, because then I immediately remembered, oh wait, this is how Scream 2 starts. They're in the movie theater full of a bunch of ghost faces.
Much better too. It's a diluted version of that. Just like I will say, the whole idea that like, whoa, whoever's calling, it might not actually be the person they think they're talking to, is just a diluted version of like, is this character dreaming right now? Which is what Nightmare on Elm Street does. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where like it never ends up actually working, because every time like things are a little off in the phone call, I'm like, oh, okay, it's the killer.
Oh, every time someone talks to someone else on the phone, they're talking to the killer.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, there's no normal conversations in the film. So they do a very bad job of burying that lead. And then on that same topic, there was something else I was just meaning. Oh, yeah, real quick, just another thing, another sin this movie commits, in my opinion, is the thing where they make all of the actor characters just insufferable for some reason. I feel like movies that are about like actors trying to break in the biz that aren't the main characters, they always do that thing where they're like, oh, you're just mad because she fucked him better than you and got a better role or whatever. And it's like, well, why? I don't like these people. I don't relate to them. I hate them. Get them off the screen. Why would you do this to them? They could have just been normal people.
Or not in this movie.
Yeah. Also, yeah, we probably did have to have that. Because then the movie does that weird thing where they like buddy up. I guess it's specifically Gail, but like for some reason Gail just has like her protege with her the whole time, kind of. Yeah,
the girl who plays her in the movie. Yeah.
And it just seems so out of character, because I feel like at a certain point, actually at every point possible, Gail would have been like, hey, get the fuck away from me. Stop. You helped me get into that room. Now get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I feel like that would have been in line with her character.
Yeah, they do that for 10 minutes maybe.
And then eventually she's like, fine, get in the car.
And then they're the best of friends, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, they keep like alluding to the fact that the girl who plays Sydney in the movie
might be the killer,
but every time she shows up, I'm like, is that her? Okay, yeah, I guess that's her. Because her hair changes 4 times in this movie. It's long, and then it's short, and then it's medium, and I just couldn't.
There is something sinister about her, but every time I'm just like, what the fuck is this girl doing here? Because she keeps like popping out of bathrooms and closets and fucking all kinds of shit. Yeah, she's never just naturally in a scene in that movie.
I thought less that and more so every time that she popped up, I'm like, why the fuck are they doing this? Because, like, not for a hot second was I like, oh, it's her. Okay, yeah. Or, ooh, it could be her. I'm like, no.
What was the thing I said I liked about this movie?
I don't remember. Them running in and out of the house.
No,
or her seeing the house on set.
no, it's the set.
Yeah.
The other thing I like, Jamie Kennedy's back, and I like Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah. You know what we like about this movie? When it reminds us of other movies.
More specifically, the first one.
Yeah, exactly. Scream 3 is good when it's reminding you of better Scream movies.
Also, I hate... God, there's just so many little things where, like, it makes sense totally, but, like, it's just one of those things where it's, like... It's almost like weird little detours. They're so minuscule that are just like, oh, that's weird. Oh, that's weird. Like when she shows up and there's a metal detector waiting there for her to scan her body to make sure she didn't bring a gun. Like, I get it. Logically, he wouldn't do that. But also, it's just a weird... But I guess it works so that, like... Oh, because then you're like... It works for the bait and switch later.
Where'd he get the metal detector, though?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, did he go out of his way to buy one to make sure that when he got her there... he could then have her use it? Like, because that's insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I get it because it is logical, but also it's one of those things where it's like, that's a lot of planning.
It's not 40... It's 40 checkers, for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't like that. And this is also the first time in the series where I'm not that scared of the ghost face. Like I said, in the first two, I feel like there's like a bit of a visceral nature to him. He's brutal. He is actually kind of scary. He stabs through a fucking stall door or whatever.
Yeah.
Those things are hard plastic.
2 had at least the scene where they're in the car. There's no part in this movie that made me tense or even a little bit scared or be like, ooh, I'd be scared to be in that situation.
No, not one.
To go back just a little bit, I disagree. I absolutely hate Jamie Kennedy in this movie.
Really?
I think Jamie Kennedy himself, fine. Jamie Kennedy being in this movie, I hated it.
Yeah, I don't like that whole thing where it's like, if you're watching this is too late.
Because in the first movie, he gets up and goes, you guys don't know the rules? And explains the rules, and it's just a fun joke, and you see it play out later.
I'm sorry.
And in what?
Go ahead, but I remembered something.
And in 2, he's just, yapping in the background all the time, and people are like, fucking...
No, he gives the rules.
Yeah, and he's giving the rules, but everyone's usually like, fucking shut up. All right, Jamie Kennedy, shut up, we're being murdered, all right? And then in 3, everyone's like, oh, we gotta watch this videotape, and they watch it, and he's like, these are the rules.
That's fair.
Everyone's like, oh, this is important information we should be remembering for later, and no one does.
Well, that's also, like, one of the things that in the first couple movies, I think it works in terms of, like, just being a bit of, like, meta comedy.
He's talking to us in the other movies.
But in this one, it ends up being, like, I don't know if it's, like, the screenwriter, like, misunderstanding that and then just assuming that, like, he's actually, like, some sort of oracle-type figure who...
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, it happens in the other movies. It's got to happen in Scream 3.
But in the second one, God, when we were talking about it, I meant to bring it up because he's sitting at the table with Dewey. They're having lunch, and he's like, all right, it's a sequel. The rules are different. And he lays out 3 rules. The 2 that he says in the film are... Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Bigger body count.
Absolutely. Could have been looking that up while I was talking. Sorry, go on.
Bigger body count. And that the death scenes are more elaborate. But he doesn't give a third one.
Really?
Even though he says there are 3 rules. For that, you gotta watch the trailer.
Does he give the third rule in the trailer?
In the trailer, yes.
Wow.
Don't remember what the third one is, so go ahead and find that trailer.
I won't.
Anyways, back to the third one.
We watched it. I can't. I'm trying to think of the end, and I know it happens in that basement. It happens with. I can't remember his name. He's one of the boyfriends in Scrubs. The killer ends up being, and it was the same thing with Timothy Olyphant too. I remembered it was him in this movie because I remembered he was the guy from Scrubs. That's all I remembered. But it's the same thing with Timothy Olyphant in 2, where he shows up at the beginning and then he's not gone until the last 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah,
like I said, I like the idea of the reporter from the second one being like, it's always blame the parents as a motive way more than I like this weird thing about him being like the bastard son of, Sydney's mom.
Yeah, and
very strange.
Was his plan to kill people on the movie set until Sydney eventually showed up?
Yeah.
Because how could he account for that?
What's the first murder? Oh, that's right. He comes after Cotton.
Yeah.
And then after that, he starts leaving pictures of Sydney's mom
at the crime scene. Oh, that's right. He's looking for her.
Yeah, he's trying to find her.
Yeah.
But she's in witness protection.
Yeah, and that's right. He calls her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, also, totally forgot about her having all those visions of her dead mom.
Yeah, that's a really weird, like, 4, 5, 6 Halloween sequel, like, a way that they, like, add in, like, some weird supernatural element that just...
It's just her having...
doesn't fit with the rest?
Yeah, it's just her having PTSD, which I feel like could have been done better for sure. Other we made the joke at the end where, like, they see her walking with the dog and they're like, yeah, she's okay. She'll be fine.
Yeah.
You're like, no, she will not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's weird. I think it's a very weird addition to the movie.
Also, a gust of wind blows a door open, I think 5 or 6 times in this movie.
Yeah, are the Hollywood Hills that windy?
I don't know. I don't think anywhere's that windy, bud.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw a gust of wind bust open a shut
More often
exterior
than
door?
not, the wind usually closes doors, usually slams doors
Yeah.
in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That's what I've experienced. Usually slams open doors.
They're not good at turning handles.
I'm going to give this movie a big fat F. Failed. It failed miserably, in my opinion.
I'm going to give it a D
Yeah.
because I had fun watching it.
Yeah.
I'd say an F for a movie is a movie that I find boring.
Really?
I didn't think that this movie was good,
Yeah.
but I had fun. We had some good yucks watching it. I laughed when they were running in and out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I said, I wasn't bored watching it.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to consider, like, Fs are when I think that there's something the movie tried to do, or at least in the case of a sequel, something that the series has been established as accomplishing, that it just fails to, just misses the mark. It did, whatever it was trying for, it didn't end up doing. Right, and what it's trying to do is the same thing, right? It lays out the 3 rules about how, like, oh, something, there's a twist, there's something you didn't, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, I just don't think it's ever successfully, like, aware of itself enough to then actually, like, in the first one we were talking a lot about how, like, oh, it's like Wes Craven's movie where he's just like such a horror master that at this point he can kind of like riff on it,
Yeah.
it can almost table talk. Well, also Kevin Williamson is a big part of that. A
Yeah.
lot of that was written by him, and now Kevin Williamson is gone, and there's some guy who can clearly write a horror movie, but he definitely can't write a good one. And if you can't write a good one, then you can't write a good one that also does table talk, that also is meta, right? And so I think it just ends up letting down the first 2, even though the second one wasn't even that good. I think we probably gave it like a C or something.
yeah.
So anyways, that's my criteria for an F, is like if it just completely fails what I expected from it.
Yeah, no, I think that works. I think that's a perfect criteria for an F. That's probably what I would give a movie an F for. But like
We had fun.
Yeah, like I said, I had fun. I think it is just.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'd
and
watch
fun
it
enough.
again.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I am probably gonna watch Scream 3 again before I die. Hopefully. Hopefully I don't die tomorrow.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Oh God, please let me see the Scream 3 one more time.
Within a reasonable amount of time. I don't want to see it again too soon.
It reminds me of one of my favorite episodes of The Twilight Zone. It's called One for the Angels. Death comes for a guy, right? He has a job where he sells shit on the street corner or whatever. He's very close with the neighborhood kids. Very briefly, he says, like, hey, it's your time. He's like, but I've got unfinished business. And then Death's like, well, actually, there's infrastructure for that. So, like, what is the thing? And he's like, I've never been skydiving. And he's like, that's not it. You could come with me. And he's like, well, there is one thing.
I have to avenge the rape and murder of my girlfriend and play a guitar solo on the roof.
Yeah. Well, then he goes on this thing about how he's like, I always wanted to make a real good sale or whatever. One for the angels, one that would open up, yada, 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 or whatever. And spoilers, at the end of the movie, he does. Because basically what happens is once he makes that deal with Death that he can have a little more time to try to finish up his business, he ends up killing one of the neighborhood kids that he likes or whatever, and she's going to die tonight at midnight kind of a thing. And so then he ends up setting up outside of her house and like to make a sale or whatever, and Death's like, hey, this is kind of late for a sale. And he's like, hey, you never know when a sale is gonna come across. And the whole thing is that Death is very punctual and he makes Death late for the appointment. And so at the end Death's kind of like, that was a really good sale. And he's like, yeah, it was, wasn't it? And he's like, one for the angels. And he's like, yeah, I guess it was. And they go off together. But anyways, in that scenario, you would have to say, obviously, my unfinished business is that I gotta see Scream 3 one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a lot of work for not that funny of a... I guess it would have been funnier like if I could have just made the reference.
If I was dying...
It was a deep cut, though.
And Death came to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta see... I gotta see Scream 3 before I died. And he was like, Okay, you can have.
He would grant that one for sure.
What?
I'm saying he'd grant that one.
Yeah, no, and he was like, "All right, fine. You can watch Scream 3. You can sit in this living room and live for 2 more hours and watch Scream 3." I'd probably be like, "Nah, it's fine. I'll just go."
Right now, in this moment specifically, doesn't have to be that deep. You decide. If you were given that deal by death, what would be your case for I've got unfinished business?
Oof. I've never been in love. No, I'm kidding.
That'd be a very sweet one. That would probably even get you.
I don't know.
That'd probably even get it for you.
I don't think I have one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a kickflip before I die.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'd like to see a different country before I die. That'd probably be it. I've never left the country. But that's not as philosophical and nice as a one for the angels.
I think being in love was a decent one.
Okay. Well, I think I have, but...
Yeah. What about reciprocated love with longevity?
I feel like that'd be a loophole.
Yeah, fair.
Listen,
I want to be in love for 40 years.
I'd like to be married for a while and have at least 1 or 2 kids.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is I don't think I have one like the one for the angels thing that would work, because anything that I'm in the process of that I'd like out of my life is like a thing where it's like, hey, buddy, we're talking 20, 30 years for me to figure out, like, I want to have like a kid or something, or I'd like to get married, or I'd like to write a novel one day or something. Those are all things where it's like, yeah, okay, how long is that going to take you, buddy? So anyways, we've graded the film. At this point, we're not talking about movies anymore, so I think that means... well, you know, here's a fun thing. Maybe we could model the endings after movies or something like that. Is there some way that, like, not credits, but some way that we could theatrically, like, maybe we could roll credits. We only have 2 credits, though.
Your hosts are... hosted by Chris Crumley and Nick Johnson.
Produced by
Nick Johnson. Sound editing by Nick Johnson. Computer owned by Chris Crumley.
No production company. No rights to speak of. We didn't use any music yet.
Oh, we'll start though.
And you know, any likeness that reminds you of someone living or dead, it's, you know, just a coincidence.
Lighting by DTE and Rocky Cooper.
It's in my name at this point.
Okay.
We both bring the lights.
Craft services by Kraft Macaroni and Cheese and Brussels sprouts or whatever Chris just ate.
It's kind of an anticlimactic way to end the show, I think. I think a nice abrupt bye is good. Hey,
bye.
Bye. If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,